The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you've been seeking. Joseph Campbell. Wow. Think about that for a minute. That cave that you fear to enter actually holds the treasure that you've been seeking. The thing that you are most afraid, the thing that you have been avoiding, that one thing that you have convinced yourself that you are not ready for, that is actually where your breakthrough lies. Hi, everyone. I'm Katharine Loucaidou, and welcome back to a Mindset Medicine podcast. We have a really great episode for you today. It is about, that cave that you fear to enter, that thing that you don't want to do, but you know you need to do, that thing you've been avoiding, but that is actually where your growth is sitting, waiting for you. That is what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about the bold move, the bold decision that you know you need to make, but something is holding you back. And I'm going to explain to you today what that something is, because it's a thing. And I'm going to tell you a story about where I was last week and why I intentionally walked into that cave and the treasure that I found inside. And it's taken me over 30 years to actually gain this completely new perspective. And I would really love to share it with you. We are going to step into fear today. We are going to face it head on. And I believe that after listening to today's episode, you are going to have your own breakthrough. Something is going to click and you're going to say, wow, okay, I am ready for the next part of this year, and I'm ready to go into 2025 with this new perspective that I hadn't really thought of. So I've got a ton of notes. So if you see me looking down, if you're watching this, it's because I really don't want to miss anything. I've thought a lot about this episode, and I had a plane ride to think about it and what I wanted to share with you today. So that's what we're going to do. Here's what I've noticed, and tell me if you have felt the same way. When you are not aligned, when you feel like something is off, the first indication of that is going to be your health. And it's a really fascinating connection. It's the health alignment connection. So what really stands out to me is when we are not aligned with our true purpose, it will manifest physical symptoms. And this has hit home for me many times over the years when I've walked into rooms that I probably shouldn't have been in because it didn't align with what I was looking for, with who I was, but I felt it was something that I needed to attend. And when I was there, I realized from the way that my body was reacting, it was headaches, or it was stress, or it was almost like a panic attack. This really isn't the room for you. So what's interesting is when you walk into the opposite type of room and you just feel so good, you feel comfortable. It feels like, have you ever walked into something or somewhere, or have been speaking to someone, and you're like, this just feels so good? That's what I'm talking about. There is this somatic connection that you have with your mind and your spirit, and it knows when you are in the right place. It knows when you're not, But what do you do with this connection when you're about to walk into that cave that you fear and you feel all kinds of nervous and you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe I shouldn't do this? I think it's really important that you follow through and you do that thing that makes you nervous, because in my experience, that is usually the feeling that is leading to your breakthrough, and you don't even realize it until it's happened. So here's what happened to me. Last week, I had this wonderful friend of mine who's also a fellow coach. She's so good at what she does. And we were chatting back and forth. And I said, hey, why don't you come back on the podcast? I would love to have another conversation with you. Let's choose a different type of topic, something that's really going to make people sit up and think. And she's like, oh my God, would love to, but I am leaving for a conference. She's like, why don't you come along? And I said, well, where are you going? What kind of conference is this? She said, okay, I'm pretty sure it's something that you've never been to. I am pretty sure it is a new crowd for you. And I think it would be really good. I think you need to go. So I had about 1 hour to decide if I'm going to book a ticket for this conference where they were going to be closing off the ticket sales, if I was going to be booking a flight that was going to leave in 48 hours and hotel and so on. And I said, I think I need to do this. Something inside me said, yes, you need to be spontaneous, which I love being, and you need to go. So that's what I did. I was about to step into a new environment, new faces, new people, new topics. Although it was a conference for very high level female coaches, I had never actually put myself in a room like that before. I have put myself in rooms with very high business people, but I'd never been in a room of all female coaches. Probably I have not even been to a conference that was an all-female conference. So this was definitely going to be something very interesting. So I arrive in Denver and I quickly realize that I have altitude sickness. It is a much higher elevation than where we are here in Toronto, but I have been in that situation before. I was speaking many years ago in Lake Tahoe, and I had the same type of feeling. So I knew, okay, we can get this under control. I've got about 12 hours before the conference starts. I'm just going to do what's necessary. Drink lots of water, electrolytes, carbs. I mean, who doesn't love carbs? And I'm just going to rest, right? Because you're supposed to do not too much activity. So what I've known through the years and what I coach people is when we are out of alignment, when we are not following our true purpose, it will show up. It'll show up in our behavior. It'll show up in our patience or lack of. It will show up in our mood. You will not feel happy. You will feel fatigued. You will feel tired. Everything feels like it's a chore. And you will have physical symptoms. You will have migraines, stomach aches. You will nausea. You will have panic attacks. All of this, probably 60% of the time, is because you are not aligned to what you should be doing. You're not aligned to the path you should be on. Maybe your behavior is out of alignment with who you really want to be or are, but maybe you feel like you are falling into other people's expectations. This particular trip, it reminded me of people who walk into that desert and they're just looking for answers in their life. This was kind of like that for me. And the reason why is because I just had a lot of revelations come to me after being in business for 30 years, and where my business experience, the majority of it has come from, and how that transformed my character and who I had to be to work in those environments. So I'll unveil a little bit of that later on. But what I've seen is that in my own life and in the lives of the people that I coach, when we're not living in alignment with our values, with our desires, with the way that we truly want to be, it will take a toll on us. And if we allow that to go on for a very long period of time, you will get to the point where you are not happy anymore. You will get to the point where you actually say to yourself, I don't even know who I am anymore. Have you ever said that to yourself? I know I've asked people who I've coached, what makes you happy? And, I'll see their face and they just say, I actually don't know. I don't know what makes me happy anymore. Or you'll say, well, who are you? Beyond the fact that you're a mother or a father, beyond the fact that you are whatever job you do, beyond the fact that you have these titles, who are you? And I think we are able to answer this before we hit the age of 20. Because before the age of 20, you don't really have this full-time job. You don't really have a title other than maybe having been a student. So if someone says, who are you? I think the answer that you would give is very simple, but you would talk about the character you are. But if you ask someone who's closer to midlife who they are, they're going to start naming all of these titles. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a whatever your job is. But in fact, that's really not who you are. It's what you do. So in between this today, I'm going to give you a little bit of research because I do want you to understand that you're not alone. And this actually has been researched. So research in psychosomatic medicine. So the medicine of how the body works in connection to the mind and behavior. It actually shows us that our mental state is closely tied to our physical health. For instance, a study published in the Journal of Psychosomatic Research found that individuals experiencing high levels of stress and dissatisfaction were more likely to report physical symptoms like headaches, fatigue, and chronic pain, autoimmune diseases. The connection between the mind and body is incredibly powerful. And I think we know this. I think we know this without even having the research in front of us. When we are in a highly stressful situation, when maybe you have gone through a period of having low finances, maybe you've been through a period where you have a health crisis going on, maybe there is an issue in your relationship, you will feel it in your body, don't you? Your muscles are tense. You have a constant headache, the back of your neck, maybe at the top of your head. When something feels off in your life, whether it is your health, in your work, in your relationships, this is a signal that you need to stop what you're doing and realign. Realign your way of thinking, realign your true purpose. And it's not just about stepping back and thinking about, okay, well, why didn't that particular situation go well? It's not always that particular situation. Most couples who fight and argue, if the fight or argument is about money, it's not ever actually about money. There are typically deeper issues. I want you to imagine this. This is an experiment that I did a few years ago. I was showing some of the people who worked at my brokerage. So you take a glass of water, okay? So I only want you to fill the glass of water 1/4. But here's what happens. That 1/4 glass of water is typically your tolerance for conflict in your life. So we're going to put it at 1/4. You're good. You're calm. Now I want you to start adding in little rocks one at a time. What you're going to notice is the level of the water rises, okay? So if you had a low, your level of tolerance or your calmness was at a normal level, with every rock, which is a problem, that level starts to rise in the water, doesn't it? And with each problem, the water level rises. Well, at a certain point, when you get to fill that glass, imagine now that glass is full of rocks. That water is now actually pouring out. So it was never the one rock. It's the multiple rocks that you allow to build up. That is what leads to the chronic health issues. It's not the one thing. It's the many that you allowed to build up in your life. What I've learned over the years and what I've coached people is that you need to start paying attention to what each of those little rocks is for you. And rather than allowing that back into your glass, you need to fix the issue before it hits the glass, so the water stays at its low level. So when we decide that we're going to be intentional and purposeful in the actions that we're taking now, so we're going to start living differently, right? Now I'm going to be intentional about, okay, I'm upset right now. Do I really need to be upset? Is this the actual issue that I'm upset about, or is there something different? Right? Did something else happen in my life today and I'm just taking it out on this person? Be purposeful in what you do and really think about it. And then what happens is you will begin to start living in a more authentic way. So I want to talk about this word authenticity, right? The word authentic. We hear it a lot now on social media. We hear it in books. We talk about being our authentic selves. I have a problem when words are overused and maybe they're not used in the context they were meant to be. So I'd like to talk about authenticity a little bit. It's a word that is thrown around, especially in personal development, right? You're going to read it a lot in personal development books, podcasts, and so on. So what does it mean to live authentically? I mean, you might say to yourself, well, I'm being me. Aren't I living authentically? The question is, in the age of social media, are we living authentically? Have we just learned to have a constant mask on our face and everything is perfect? It is always perfect. Sometimes that can be a coping mechanism. Sometimes it is your way of turning things around. Sometimes it could be your way of manifesting what it is I am going to be in a good mood today, because that will lead to a better day. So you are, in fact, being authentic. For entrepreneurs and business owners, and if that is you who's listening to this today, it is a word that can be particularly challenging. There is a pressure that we need to create an image online or even an image in your work life that you need to be a certain way. But here's what I have learned over the years and what I try to help others through is that authenticity is not perfection. Authenticity is simply being who you truly are. Before the title is put on you, before you align yourself with, this is what I do, so this is who I am, Who are you? That is authenticity. So here's the challenge. At some point in our lives, we lose touch with who we really are. And it can be because something happened. It can be because we were forced into a situation where we had to accommodate whatever, maybe it was the culture, maybe it was the job environment. So we did it to meet societal expectations. But true authenticity is knowing that we can strip away those layers and still be who we are and accepted for that. This isn't just a nice idea. This is what it means to live boldly. I speak from experience when I can tell you that I did have to adapt. I felt I had to adapt when I lived in Europe. When I lived in Cyprus, I was young when I started my business life there. And becoming a new teacher in these new work environments in a patriarchal society, if I wanted to keep my job, I had to adapt to the way they wanted me to work, to the way they wanted me to behave at schools. Here's an interesting little story. So I had been working in this one school. The headmaster of the school was very patriarchal. And I walked into his office before the second year was about to begin. And I said to him, or was it the third year? It doesn't matter. But I said to him, I just wanted to let you know that I'm pregnant. And his face dropped. And he said, well, what are you having? And I was so taken aback by that question, because he wasn't asking it with a smile on his face saying, oh my goodness, are you having a boy or girl? He looked at me and he said, what are you having? And I said, I'm having a baby boy. And he said, well, that's good, because if you were having a girl, I was going to fire you. And I honestly didn't know what to say. I needed that job. And I had learned to keep quiet when I heard these types of comments being made when I lived there. So it's not the first time that I heard things like this. I was hired during the summertime. They didn't pay us when we were teachers at these private schools. So we always had to look for a 3 or 4 month job, which wasn't very difficult. As a native English speaker, I was able to teach English to anybody at any age, anywhere on the island. So I applied to what they call the College of Tourism. And I went in a few months earlier. Basically, I must have been 2 or 3 months pregnant. And the interview was before that summer session would begin. So maybe I went in, I don't know, April or May. So I went in, I got the job. I had very good qualifications and they liked my personality. Great. You're going to start at the end of June when our summer courses begin. When I went back, and it was a couple of weeks before the semester would begin, they saw that I had a belly and they said, you're pregnant? And I said, yes. And they said, well, I'm sorry, you can't work here. And they fired me. So the type of labor laws that you're thinking to yourself now, well, that can't be allowed, they just didn't exist over there. So I just had to take it and go find another job. So all of these experiences, they shape who we are. And I believe that I allowed them inside to shape who I am. So I became much tougher, because if you're going to go up against that type of mentality, you have to become tough. You can't allow it to bother you. And so therefore, going through each new year in business, you learn to become tougher and tougher in business. What happens, though, is as you are becoming this person, you are unbecoming the person that you were, which is probably who you are. So it's an interesting discussion, isn't it? Are you unbecoming to become this person? And are you losing who you are? Or are you just growing through life? Interesting ideas, aren't they? Well, let's go back to this conference because it's very similar. So when I walked into this conference last week in Denver, the environment was very light. As I mentioned, previous conferences I had been to, it was a very heavy environment. Everyone was quite formal and a lot of egos around the room. So again, that characteristic of being tough in business, it needs to be there. At least for me. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, it needs to be there. So as I'm watching all of these women in the room, I'm noticing something very different. I'm noticing that they're moving differently. They're very free. They're very open and authentic and honest. This is from my perspective, from what I'm watching. And as I'm listening to them speaking about their 7- and 8-figure businesses. So we're not talking about a room full of women who are just doing this as a hobby. They're 7- and 8-figure incomes coaching people around the world. But the way that they're approaching it is authentically who they are. So this concept and the word authentic just kept coming back to me. And it was a reminder that living boldly and making your next bold move isn't always about taking risks. It's also about being honest with yourself about who you are, how you want to do things, and how you want to connect with people. Not because it's what's dictated by society, but it's because how you truly feel. You know, I want people to know that I truly care about them. And because I was on my deathbed at 33, I know how short life is. I mean, I truly, to my core, know how short life is or can be. And so why are we living in this way that isn't who we are and what we truly want to be doing? But we are just following into what we have to do. So many times I've spoken to people and they said, well, I'm just doing it because I have to make money. Well, if you really want to make money, you could still make money in what you are passionate about. You could still make money in what really makes you happy. And you might even make more money if you did. So recognizing when you are out of alignment with who you really are will probably not show up psychologically first in your mind. It will probably show up in how your body is feeling. It's every day you wake up and you just don't feel like yourself. Have you ever done that? Have you ever woken up in the morning and you're like, I don't know, there's something off. I just don't feel like myself. Ask yourself, am I thinking about something today that isn't aligned with who I am? Do I have to do something today that just doesn't seem right? Maybe that's the reason. So let's think about your own life for a moment. Can you think of times where you have been somewhere talking to someone or even having an idea about the future, and it's really making you uncomfortable, but you can't figure out why. That's probably your misalignment. So let's go to the number 2. The power of changing preconceived ideas. Oh, this is such a good one, isn't it? Don't we have so many preconceived ideas, notions, and stories in our head of how things are, how things should be, but is our perception of them? This is something that is probably one of the greatest barriers to holding people back. Are there preconceived ideas about people, things, places, situations, and ideas? These are stories that we have told ourselves and believed about our past experiences. They shape us. They create the words that come out of our mouth. They create the ideas that we have. And they also create the image that we see in ourselves. Why is it that one individual, let's say that they're overweight, is highly confident, beautiful, they're a model, they're in magazines, they're embracing who they are. And the other individual, who probably has the exact same body type, feels self-conscious, covers up, doesn't want to let anyone see who they are, what their body looks like. Why is it we can have such complete opposites for the same body type? Because of the ideas and the stories we have told ourselves. That's why. So when I walked into that conference in Denver, I had certain expectations or a story I had told myself of what attending a conference is expected to be. And when I walked into that room, I also had an idea of what successful coaches should look like. You hear those words I'm saying? Should, expect. And that's where everything turned upside down, because what I saw was not the typical stereotypical coach, business coach, right? That they're very proper and speak in a certain lingo. And it's all about strategy and it's about numbers. It was nothing like that. These women were thriving. They were redefining what a coach looks like, sounds like, feels like. They were redefining what success at making 7 and 8 figures looks like. I've done very well in business for 30 years. And it's been a mix of everything, from strategies to the suits, to the formal, to the somewhat informal. But what I noticed mostly in this room was that they were beyond the traditional mold and so happy that they were in that place. So it wasn't just a wake-up call for me. It was also an affirmation that there is no single path to success. So I want you to take this away today. There is no one single path to success. It is from constantly challenging your beliefs. It is challenging yourself to walk into the cave that is unknown and scary and come out a completely different, transformed person because you were brave enough to take that first step. This is what I really want you to come out with today, because whenever you tell yourself, I'm not like them, or that's not for me, or that's not how I do things, or I don't think I'm good enough to be in that room, I'm not as successful as they are, When you tell yourself these stories, they are holding you back from achieving your true potential. And it's a shame. Because life can be shorter than we expect it to be, why are we not just embracing what it is that we authentically want to do, and authentically the way that we want to do it? For so long, I have held back my enthusiasm for life, right? Tone it down, keep quiet. I am an energetic person. I speak with my hands. My voice goes up and down because I feel passionate about wanting people to really thrive. Before the end of your life, I truly want you to have reached the full potential that you were capable of achieving. I mean the highest level version of yourself. That's who I want you to become, for you, not for me. And the reason that I want people to reach that highest version of themselves is because not only will you 100% believe in yourself, you will start believing 100% in the decisions that you make. The relationships you have will be true and honest and so beautiful. And you will feel happier and more joyful than you've ever felt. That's why. So again, let's go back to a little bit of research. If you like research and you want to hear whether this is actually a thing, there is research in psychology that supports all of these ideas. And it's actually a study from Stanford University that found that when people are exposed to environments that challenge their preconceived ideas, they are more likely to experience cognitive growth and develop new ways of thinking. And it's interesting, they have actually x-rayed people's brains before entering a conference. So this is Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks a lot about neurobiology and a lot about somatic medicine, healing yourself through your body and your thoughts. Some people may believe that this really isn't a thing, and it's in people's imagination, but it's not. It has been proven. It has happened. I personally can say that I have healed myself. So what happened is they have scanned people's brains prior to walking into a conference like this, where they will be talking about meditations and they will be talking about how to take control of your thoughts, how to take control of your behavior, how to take control of your reactions. How to take control of how you regulate yourself, basically. And what happened was, at the end of that conference, when they scanned their brains again, new neural pathways had opened up in the brain. Actual new pathways that ideas and thoughts were passing through. So it is highly important that we push ourselves into these places or caves of the unknown, because we will come out a different person, and it has been proven that way. So I would like you to take a moment right now and ask yourself, what are the stories that I have been telling myself that may be holding me back? How could stepping into a new environment or hiring a coach like Katharine to help me take on that next bold move that I know I want to make. Help me to figure out that next big decision that I know I need to take. What would it look like if I had the clarity and courage to take that next bold move, to live boldly? How would this help me break through the barriers that I've been feeling? How might it heal my body if I actually started living in alignment with what I truly want? There is a concept written by a writer called Gay Hendricks, and he speaks about the upper limit. And the upper limit is this invisible barrier that we hit when we start to reach this higher level of success. So if you have ever, let's talk about different ways of looking at this. So losing weight. You get to the point where you've lost more weight than you've ever lost before. But maybe it starts to make you feel uncomfortable. Maybe you start to say to yourself, well, okay, well, I've lost this much weight. I can have a pack of chips. I can have a chocolate bar. It's going to be okay. When you've reached your upper limit of the success that you've established, beyond that, you don't know how it feels. So what people tend to do is they will pull back. They'll go back to where it's safe. If it's in the case of a diet, they will go back to the way they were eating, but they'll do it in little increments. But what happens is you start slowly to begin undoing all the good that was just done. And if we turn to business, in business, you may have reached a level that you have never made that much income before in your life. And at that point, what happens is your mind only knows how to function at a certain level of income. Over and above that income, you're not really sure what to do now. And then how do you get to the next level when you've only ever reached this one level? That is your upper limit. And that's where if you can't figure out how to move beyond that barrier, you will then start to hold back, go back into your comfort zone. And which is why you will hear people in business, entrepreneurs who can't seem to move their business forward. Maybe you are in sales and your sales seem to have stagnated year over year. You're making the same amount of money. That's because you have reached your upper limit. And the way that you know that you've reached your upper limit is you will start to procrastinate with ideas. You will start to procrastinate on what you know you need to do tomorrow morning to go to the next level, but you're not doing it. You will start creating conflicts with people. You may think it's unintentional, but it's actually happening intentionally. Maybe you're really happy in your relationships, but you start picking at people and start creating conflicts where conflicts really shouldn't exist. Maybe you start noticing all these little things that are negative about the person. And so now you start harping on them. You're doing that because you've reached a point where maybe you actually felt happy. Do you not feel that you deserve to be happy? Do you not feel that you need to be that successful? What it happens is that your subconscious is keeping you in check. And the stories start to come back to you saying, well, maybe too much money isn't necessary. Or do I really need to have that much money? I'm quite comfortable as I am. So the question is, how do we break through these upper limits? How do we do it? The first step is to actually be aware of what you're doing. Recognize, and you're going to have to be aware of these patterns of behavior, right? So you're on a diet, can't move beyond that last number. You are in business and you start to notice this pattern year over year that you're really not increasing your revenue. This means you've reached your upper limit. The second step is that the moment you start to feel uncomfortable about where you're at, move forward, take the next step. Don't stay at that place. I want you to think about where you might be hitting your upper limit. What areas of life are you feeling like you're holding back? Is it in your relationships? Could they be better? Is there something holding you back? Are you putting up a wall? In business, have you tried the next thing? The reason that I love AI, and I have been doing workshops on AI for businesses and small businesses and entrepreneurs, is because it will move you to the next level in your business. I've seen it happen. But that upper limit that you may have created for yourself doesn't allow you to take on this new knowledge that could move you forward. Maybe it's time you recognize that that upper limit is there and move beyond it. What would happen if you embraced AI in your business? Well, your business might actually work more efficiently. You might actually get more time back. And because you have more time back, you have a greater capacity to take on more business. If you used AI in your daily life and you had an extremely organized schedule, which is what AI can do for you, you would no longer be off track and again, would actually gain back time in your life. So all of these things, when we decide that we are going to move beyond our upper limit, these are our next bold moves. And when I use the word bold, it simply means that thing that we are not used to doing, that story that we're about to go against that's playing in our head, that's bold. And good for you for going against it. And if you're having trouble figuring out what is my next bold move, I'm here, I'm in this job, I've been doing it for so long, I don't even know what I want to do next. Just the idea that you have that there may be something beyond that one job that you've been doing for so long and you would love to do something different, that is the beginning of creating your next bold move. And that is where I help people. I help bring you from that point where you have that little nudge that says, I think things could be different in my life. I think there might be something better for me, but I'm just not sure what that is. That is my special power. I can help you figure out what that is. I can help you get clarity around it. Then it takes courage to take the step and start implementing. And that is where the business side of me comes in, where the strategy happens, and marketing. And what does your branding look like? And what does this look like for the rest of your journey down the road? That is where I help people. So I'm going to go back to that conference in Denver. Walking into that conference wasn't just about me seeing how other coaches are reaching their full potential and helping their clients to the best of their ability. It was experiencing a profound shift in my perspective that there are multiple ways of achieving 7 and 8-figure success. And it didn't have to be the narrative that's been playing in my head for 30 years about being tough and the formal way of doing things and the ego. And everyone has to know how much money you make. And everyone has to know how many sales you've done this month. That can be a part of it when it's intentional to bring other people along, but not if you feel like that's who you have to be, because that's what's expected of you. So the ripple effect, and I love this word ripple. Think of when you're watching a stream, right? And you see this one ripple and then it goes out into the lake. You throw a stone, and doesn't that ripple start to carry through the water? The moment you put yourself in a position where you have opened yourself up to a new perspective, you have now just created the ripple effect in your life. Because when you open that one little window in your mind that, well, if that is a different way of doing things, what if I looked at this situation differently? And if that turned out well, what if I looked at this situation differently? This beautiful ripple effect is what will start to challenge your old beliefs, and you will start to see things differently. You will start to feel things differently. You may actually start to interpret things differently and people's reactions and behavior. You may not be as triggered by people as you are right now. Are you at the point where you feel very triggered by people's, maybe their rudeness, maybe they're just so difficult to understand now, maybe their behavior is irrational and it really bothers you? What if when you start changing the way you start thinking about things and seeing things, they too will start to change? There is this great quote that says, when you start to see the world differently, the world starts to appear differently to you. And it's very true. Now let's have in mind that this isn't all about you. The ripple effect will also impact your growth, and it will impact the people around you and the relationships you have. It will impact the income that you're making. It will impact how passionate and energetic you now become. It will impact your health because you're going to feel better. You may actually not have pain, so you're going to move better. When you don't have a headache and fatigue, you're actually going to enjoy life. So when we talk about the ripple effect of making one bold move, it is huge, and it will impact everything that you come into contact with and everyone that you come into contact with. And then that one bold move may turn to another one, and that will create its own ripple effect. And now you've created this incredible future ahead of you. That is exactly what you had envisioned for yourself when you thought about how you would love life to go and what you would love life to be, and the freedom that you hope to achieve, and the happiness and joy that you deserve. I want to encourage you to take one bold step today. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be one small step into that cave of the unknown. It's trying one thing that's a little bit different, embracing one thing in AI. Maybe it is signing up for coaching and saying to yourself, you know what? I deserve this for myself. I deserve to be happy. I deserve this freedom that I have searched for so many years. We have covered some very powerful concepts today, from the importance of alignment, from your ideas, your preconceived ideas and the narrative going through your mind. We've talked about your upper limit. And if you can remove that upper limit in your life, not only will you see a breakthrough, but you may actually heal yourself. You will heal your feelings, your thoughts, the pain you might be having in your body. Maybe you don't need all the medicine you've been taking. Have you ever thought that it might be something else? Living boldly is not just about making one big leap. It is about making small, bold moves every single day that are uncomfortable, but that push you beyond what you thought was possible for you. You will have doubt, you will have fear, and that's okay. That means you're here to experience it. Because what's on the other side of your fear and your doubt and your worry is so worth it. If you have been feeling that nudge, you feel like, I feel like there's something more for me. I feel like I'm meant for more. If you are tired of living in your comfort zone and you really want to go for it, and you finally say, you know what, it's enough. I don't care how old I am ready to take on something new and different. And age is not a factor. You don't have to do it alone. I want you to know that. You don't have to do it alone. That's where I come in. I truly want to help you get to your next step. Make that one little bold move so that you can make the next one and the next one. My coaching isn't about sitting here and setting goals and creating that perfect strategy. I want to help you uncover what's been holding you back. I want to help you go beyond the upper limit that you may have unconsciously set for yourself. I want to help you walk into that cave and walk out the happiest, most joyful, healthy person you have ever been, doing what you really want to do. We all have moments where we have felt stuck. We have felt unsure about our next step. We know that there's something better, but we just don't know how to get there. I can guide you through all of those challenges. God knows I've been through it all. The ups, the downs, the beautiful, the terrible. And I've come to the place at the other end of the cave that is so beautiful, so peaceful, so joyful, that I want you to feel the same way. So no matter where you are in the world today, that you are listening to this or you are watching this, I want you to ask yourself right now, do I deserve to be happy? Do I deserve to have joy in my life for the rest of my life? Do I deserve to be my own investment? You invest your emotions, you invest your care in everyone else, but isn't it time to invest in yourself? Give yourself that gift. Eleanor Roosevelt had this wonderful quote, and I'm going to tell it to you. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. That's where real growth happens. And that's where life truly begins. So I ask you, what bold move will you make today? Will it be small? Will it be large? Do you need help? Because I'm here for you. Keep living boldly, and I will see you on the next Mindset Medicine podcast. And if you liked this episode, and if you think you know someone who could really get some help from it, share it with someone today. Share it on social media. Let the world know, you know what? This was a really great episode that you need to tune into. There are links below where you can contact me, or you can follow, or you can actually take some of the courses that I have created and I'm still in the process of creating. But more than anything, if I can help you move forward to that beautiful next place, that's what I'm waiting to hear from you. Bye for now.